I wanted to actually have a look at this kit that I found at Kmart. So I've seen a lot of calligraphy sets available on the market at the moment, and some of them are quite affordable and some of them are a little bit higher price. I wanted to actually have a look at this kit that I found at Kmart, right? So you could actually purchase this kit for less than like $10. So what I wanted to do was to get this kit and to actually see if it's any good for those who are starting out calligraphy or wanting to learn calligraphy, or those who are already doing calligraphy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the box first. So this is the actual calligraphy set with the pen holder, nibs and an ink jar in it. All right, so let's give it an open. It's nicely packaged in there. All right. I've got a little instruction card at the back here. Information about what you actually get in the kit. There's not so much information or instructions on how to use it, or changing the nib or putting it back in or anything. And this is the actual calligraphy set. You can see there, pen holder, you got a few nibs, bottle of ink, and also a case. So I'm just going to take it out of the kit now. Oh, sorry, out of the packaging. Okay. So it's come with a nice little metal case for you. Oh, actually, here we go. I found something behind this sign here, and it seems like, okay, it is a little instruction booklet on how to use your nib, caring for your nib, seating position, and exemplar, the alphabet in both uppercase and lowercase. It shows you how to care for your nib, but it actually doesn't tell you how to prepare a nib, right? So with all brand new nibs, you've actually got to prep them before you use them, but let's just go ahead and follow the instructions of what they've told us and see how we go. But before I do that, I'm actually going to open up this little calligraphic paper pad that they've, they also sell, and see how their paper is that they've provided in this. All right, let's, hopefully I don't cut through the paper. Here's the pad. And it is, at the back here I can see that it says it's gridded. So that's the type of layout they've provided for paper. It is 70 GSM and there's 50 pages in here. We're just going to take some of the supplies out of this metal tin here that they provided. Okay, first thing I've noticed is they provided a straight pen holder. I'm very used to using something like this here. Oh, not this. This here, which is an oblique pen holder. I mean, you can do it either way. Some people prefer the straight and some people prefer the oblique. For me, personally, it's an oblique, but let's see how I go with the straight. They've provided some nibs here. Let me take all the nibs out to have a look. They haven't really given us any names for what the nibs are, but more so they provided the number of them. So there's a number 3, a number 5, and a number 2 here. I think that's just their own coding. It doesn't really ring a bell for me for any certain type of nibs. The other thing I've noticed too is that these nibs have a tilted end where the points of them actually flare upwards. Not sure if it's intentional or whether the nibs are damaged, but I think that's how they're designed, whereas this one is not tilted up and it's quite pointed. They have labeled these as pointed nibs. It's funny, but I mean, I wouldn't really consider some of these pointed. Now the next thing I'm going to take out here is the little calligraphy ink jar. So they've given us about 7 mils of it. It's black and it's suitable for fountain and dip pen. So that's what it looks like there. Quite a little jar here. Little bottle actually, I should say. All right, let's open it up and see. Oh, okay, they've sealed it really well, which is really good. Let's hope I don't spill it everywhere when I open it up. All right, little jar topper on here. And now I think I noticed one little problem with this already, and we'll see if I'm actually correct once we start doing it. So I'm going to put the little ink jar over here, and so I don't spill it. And I'm going to look at the instructions now. It says, use your nib. Hold the desired nib firmly with a napkin. So let's pull out one of my little napkins here. and push it into place. So it's given us instruction of where to put the nib into the pen holder, into that little slot there. So we'll go try it. I'm going to use a napkin as they suggest. I'm going to use one of these tilted nibs here with the funny little points at the end and see how it goes, right? All right, I'm going to hold it and I'm going to pop it in. Little Jurassic Park going on in the back there. I've got the nib here. I'm just going to pop it into the pen holder like they suggest with a napkin. I normally don't have to use a napkin because I don't mind touching the nib. And that's what they've said, and they said hold the nib like a regular pen, dip the nib into the ink to load. Two problems I've seen so far, haven't been told in this instruction, is one, how to prepare a nib. Actually, you've got to actually prepare all nibs, brand new nibs that come out, because they've got a layer of oil on them that protects them. And the second thing is that it's asked you to hold it like you would a regular pen. I really disagree. The way you hold a pen holder is very different to how you would hold a regular pen, right? Okay, so they're saying on a scrap piece of paper, that I'm just going to follow exactly what this instruction says, and it says to load up my nib with some ink. I can already see here it's a little bit hard to dip it in, but I'm going to load it up like they said. And just like I knew it would happen, when I load up the pen holder, no ink actually comes onto it because of that protective layer of oil on the nib here. So it doesn't matter how much I dip, it's not going to come out. And even they tell me to practice on a spare piece of paper. Oh, I'm surprised that the ink actually does come out, but it's probably going to run out very shortly because, because there's not enough ink on here. And look, you can see that the ink has actually run everywhere over here too. So I would say that that was a bit of a fail, but it's okay. Inky hands are okay. I've practiced on my spare piece of paper. Now I'm going to use it on the actual practice paper here. So the first thing is they've given us some seating positions too. So it says here, breathe, sit up straight and write slowly. Cool. So I'm going to position myself how I would normally. So the great thing about the straight pen holder here is that it's good for both left and right-handed. So whether you're left-handed or right-handed, you would just adjust in the hand that you need, and then you adjust your seating position. So for me, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to adjust myself. And they said to basically start writing, right? With here, they've called it a calligraphy kit. They've given us kind of the exemplars here to use, but they haven't. The other problem they haven't shown is that there's a way to do calligraphy and that all strokes going up are thin and all strokes going down are thick, but they haven't really given us any indication of that here. I only know that because I do calligraphy. So I'm going to try it now and work this nib here onto their calligraphic paper and see how it goes. So let's start with their A. And just like I kind of knew would happen, you can see here the ink that they provided along with the paper that they sell to go with this kit does not work together. The paper actually bleeds this ink, right? So that is a bit of a fail there. And for those who are starting out and beginning to do calligraphy, they might see this as a fail on their part too, that they haven't done something right or whatever it is, but it's not you, it's actually the paper here. So you're okay when it's a little bit of the thin strokes and it's not so thick, but when you start doing those thick strokes, that's when you run into the issue of having that bleed there. And these nibs aren't as flexible as you would hope, so they're quite stiff nibs, and their downstrokes aren't as they're not too bad, but ink runs out fast because my nib's not holding on to too much ink too. Not too bad with this nib, but I wouldn't really consider them really very flexible nibs, so they're probably stiffer nibs. Let's try this other nib here. No prepping it because I haven't suggested it. Dip it in and let's see how this one goes. Yep, once again, this nib is very, very similar to the other nib. There's not very much difference between them at all. And the downstrokes aren't as defined as the thin upstrokes. All right, and let's try this last nib here. Maybe it's a little bit more flexible. Once again, I'm not going to prep it because they haven't suggested it in their book instruction. Doesn't hold much ink, as you can see. That's what happens when you don't really prep your pen, your nibs, brand new ones. And this one is a very, very stiff nib. You've actually got to press it quite hard to get these thin lines, and it's snagged on the paper too because I've had to push harder to get the tines to open up. So we just had a quick look at the Kmart kit and what it can do, but what I wanted to do is just go a little bit more in depth and show you side by side what the Kmart kit looks like versus my favorite tools when I use calligraphy. Okay, so let's just do this again with the Kmart kit. So their ink, their paper, their pen holder, and their nib. All right, so we'll just do the same word together. Let's do my name. All right, so and try and do the exact same style for both too. So you can see that this is using all of Kmart's calligraphy tools that they have provided. All right, and let's look at doing calligraphy using my favorite tools. So one of my favorite here is the Moblique pen holder, a Blanzy nib, and also a Rhodia pad. And then one of my favorite inks is the Sumi calligraphy ink. All right, need a little bit more ink on there. We'll do my name again. All right, here we go. Here are the two creations that I've done. One is using the Kmart supply and one is using my one, and you can see already that there is the one biggest difference is that the paper bleeds versus this where the paper doesn't bleed. When I do my strokes, like the down strokes and the up strokes, there's a big major difference in them when I use my Blanzy nib versus when I use the Kmart nib, which is a little bit more stiffer. But you're also going to be questioning whether it's because I use my ink on this paper and not on this one that it bleeds. So what I'm going to do is do a test, right? I'm going to test Kmart's ink on my paper and my ink on Kmart's paper. I hope I said that right, and then we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, but I'm just going to use my favorite nib in this case. Alright, so let's test my ink here on the Kmart paper and see how it goes. Ran out of ink a little bit there. Okay. And you can see there already that the ink has started to bleed. This is the Kim's Sumi. All right. Now on the Kmart paper, on my paper, we're going to try and test out the ink that Kmart has provided in their kit. I'm going to try and get my nib in there a little bit. All right, let's see how it goes. Get a little bit more ink. All right, you can see there that I've used Kmart's ink on my paper and no bleeding at all, versus using my ink on the Kmart paper and there's quite a lot of bleeding. So paper does play a big part too. When the type of paper that you use for your calligraphy also plays a big part. Okay, so we just had a quick look at the Kmart calligraphy kit that you can get at your local Kmart. And while it's great and it does provide some of the basic tools that you need to get started, there are issues with it. So for example, you get these nibs, but they're actually not great quality nibs for calligraphy, especially if you're trying to look for those really beautiful downstrokes and you know, a little bit more of a flexible nib. The ink that you get is quite a small jar, and the pen holder that you get is actually just a straight pen holder, whereas you'll probably see a lot of calligraphers out there using the oblique pen holder. Along with that, this kit on its own actually doesn't come with a paper. I found the paper separately and I had to purchase that. So not everything is all combined in there for you. Even the nibs that they provided isn't a different variety, like a variety of nibs. It's quite all the same, quite stiff. And doesn't give you these really, really beautiful strokes that you'd probably look for when you see on Instagram or whatever. A few things that I've actually noticed that's missing in that the calligraphy kit from Kmart is stuff that is essential to you, that you need, that you probably don't even realize, especially as a beginner. Something like a water bath jar to wash and rinse off your nibs, right? Great quality ink. And then also paper that doesn't bleed. Other stuff is an oblique pen holder, or that you can also use as a straight pen holder, a variety of inks. And the one most important thing I think that is almost forgotten is a workbook, to show you the instructions on how to create your calligraphy, how to actually use your pen holder properly, what the foundations of calligraphy is. And the other thing is, like, if you were to look at all these things, you'd have to buy them separately and find them and hunt them down, whereas you can get it all packaged up into one neat little box like this. Now this is available as my All the Basics kit, and you can find it on my website at community.com.au. But I think what it is that all these important tools that are missing here, even this, I haven't mentioned, is paper towels to actually wipe down your nibs and clean them. All these are missing from something that you can pick up at your local Kmart store, but what it also does is it could probably leave you a little bit more confused because you don't have the instructions on how to create the actual calligraphy properly. Now, I hope that's given you a little bit more of an insight into your local kit versus another kit that you can source online. In that, I hope it's given you some information, and that I hope it's helped you on your calligraphy journey just a little bit more.